Can we really trust official documents? Especially the big ones, the ones touching the highest offices.
It's a fundamental question, isn't it?
And what happens when, say, a local sheriff decides to investigate something like that, something that challenges the very top?
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Welcome to the deep dive. We're exploring an pretty extraordinary account from Sheriff Joe Arpaio, longest-serving sheriff in Maricopa County history, and his chief investigator, Mike Zurl.
Yeah, our mission here is really to unpack their side of the story. Their claims about a specific, very high-profile birth certificate.
Okay.
And our sources, they contain their detailed account, right? A 5-year investigation, the forensic evidence they say they found, the intense political and media pushback they claimed they faced, and what they wanted to do with those findings.
And they presented something they called the nail in the coffin, a supposedly definitive discovery pointing to forgery, according to them. It raises some really fascinating questions.
Definitely. About forensics, information, how things get controlled.
Okay, so let's try and unpack all these details. We'll guide you through the complexities and just highlight the, surprising facts as they presented them.
And I'll be here trying to connect the dots, between their specific forensic claims and maybe the broader implications of this kind of investigation starting at a local level.
Right. How does something like this even start? How did it kick off?
Well, according to Sheriff Arpaio, it started about 5 years before they went public with the final results. Apparently, 250 members of the Tea Party came to his office.
250 people. Wow.
Yeah, urging him to look into this particular birth certificate.
And Arpaio's motivation, what did he say about that?
He was pretty clear, according to his statements. He said he could care less where he is from.
Oh.
His focus, he maintained, was solely on investigating what he called a forged, fraudulent government document.
So the document itself, the potential fraud.
Exactly. And he acknowledged, he knew the heat he would take. He
Yeah.
knew it would be controversial. But he felt compelled to act, he said. So he appointed Mike Zurl to lead it. And importantly, they noted Zurl did this work without using taxpayer money.
Okay, so Zolo leads the charge. But you mentioned heat, pushback. Did that start early?
According to Arpaio's account, yes, almost immediately. He claimed the federal government, specifically mentioning Eric Holder and President Obama, started going after him just 30 days after they took office. And he also brought up a separate issue, a federal civil judge's findings on racial profiling. He claimed those were, quote, shoved over to criminal charges right before an election.
And he linked that timing.
He seemed to, yeah. And he also alleged that George Soros pumped something like $3 million into the media campaign against him in the last 30 days of his own election campaign.
So from his perspective, a coordinated effort linked to his actions, including maybe this investigation.
That seems to be how he framed it, yes.
Yeah.
It raises that whole question of how political figures interpret legal challenges in media coverage, especially when things get heated. He clearly felt it was all politically motivated.
Okay, let's get into the actual investigation then, the forensic side. What do they say they found?
Right, so Mike Zurl headed this up. He talked about traveling across the pond to a country where my mother and father came from. It's called Italy.
To Italy.
For forensics. Yeah, to consult with digital forensic specialists there. And they also worked with an expert from Hawaii, Reed Hayes. Zurl described him as a certified court-recognized expert, 30-year career, that sort of thing.
Okay, so international and local expertise. What was the key finding? You mentioned a nail in the coffin.
Yeah, well, first came what they called a lucky break. Apparently, their video maker, a guy named Mark, noticed something subtle.
Okay.
He realized the source image, the official birth certificate scan they were looking at, they called it the ONI document. It was slightly tilted. Caned, Zurl said, just off by a degree or two.
There's a slight skew. And that mattered.
According to Zurl, hugely. He said once they digitally corrected for that tiny tilt, the document began to unlock and it started to collapse on its own weight.
Collapse. What does that mean in forensic terms?
Well, it led them, they claimed, to find what they termed 9 points of verified forgery. Specific areas they believe showed manipulation.
9 points.
And these findings were checked. So they sent these findings to the 2 different examiners they'd consulted, the one in Italy, the one in Hawaii.
Right.
And according to Zurl, using different methods, old school document forensics, new technology, digital forensics, both experts independently came to the same conclusion.
Which was?
That, quote, the document is inauthentic, and the things that we have found are not explainable by any other method than cut and paste digital lift. It's as simple as that.
Cut and paste. So parts were copied from somewhere else and inserted digitally. That's the claim.
That's the core claim,
Yeah.
yes. That it wasn't one single original scanned document image.
Did they get more technical about how they saw that?
A little bit, yeah. Zulloa mentioned layers. You know how in digital images things can be on different layers?
Like in Photoshop, yeah.
Exactly. He said normally for an official document image, you'd expect it to be flattened, all layers merged into one permanently.
Makes sense.
But he claimed in this case, the layers weren't flattened. They could digitally separate them, pull them apart, essentially. He also mentioned seeing, quote, a variety of color combinations that should not be in the document. More technical evidence, they argued.
Okay. So they felt they had solid technical evidence, but they also mentioned challenges.
They did. They acknowledged trying to convince a jury could be tough. Zillow mentioned too much computer forensics involved.
Too complex for lay people, maybe?
Potentially, yeah. And the risk that a defense could just muddy the waters, introduce too much doubt. That was a concern they voiced.
Okay, so they present this evidence, these conclusions. How did the world react, according to them? The media, others?
Well, Mike Zillow's description was pretty stark. He said after their initial press conferences, the media first went silent.
Just ignored it.
Initially, yeah. And then, he said, they just went into attack mode.
Attack mode against them.
Against them,
Yeah.
against the investigation, yeah. And they claimed it wasn't just the media. They alleged there were operatives out there that come against this kind of investigation.
Operatives. Trying to do what?
Trying to put them in jail, Zullo claimed. And he also mentioned these operatives supposedly started to float an idea around about a copy machine being the forger.
A copy machine.
Yeah.
As an explanation for the anomaly.
As an alternative theory, yeah. To explain away the forensic findings they were presenting. That's what Zullo alleged.
And Sheriff Arpaio, did he feel this opposition was coordinated? Or coming from high up?
Oh, absolutely. He was very direct about that. He specifically named Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, saying they both went public nationally against me to get me out of office.
And he linked that to the investigation.
He did. He attributed it to all the money from Soros, but his specific opinion was that Soros's devious motion, as he put it, wasn't just about the typical issues like immigration or marijuana legalization.
What about?
About the birth certificate investigation specifically. That was Arpaio's stated belief that this investigation was the real reason for the high-level opposition and funding against him.
Wow. He also mentioned the Department of Justice earlier. How did he see their role?
Yeah, he had strong words about the DOJ. He described a pattern of them coming into all these cities, including mine, and putting monitors to run these police organizations.
Federal oversight.
He saw it as much more than that. He called it a very deep problem, an outside force, essentially a takeover led by our own government. He clearly connected his own experiences with federal scrutiny to this larger pattern he perceived.
And the media's role in all this, beyond the initial silence and attack.
Arpaio was clearly frustrated. He accused the media of hiding this thing, deliberately not reporting on the birth certificate findings, despite what he felt was compelling evidence, suppression of information in his view.
Okay, so Arpaio's term as sheriff is ending. They have these findings they believe in, but they feel suppressed. What was their plan? What's next?
Their immediate plan, as Zullo explained it, was about preservation. They wanted to transfer all the investigation videos, all the information, to a private website, carlgallops.com, before Arpaio officially left office on January 1st.
Why?
To prevent it from being taken down from official government sites once he was gone, they feared it would disappear. Arpaio also planned to move his large Facebook following to a private account for similar reasons, maintaining control of the narrative and the data.
So preserves the info. What else did they want action taken?
Definitely. They made a really strong appeal for Congress to get involved, to take hold of it, have hearings.
Congressional hearings.
Yes, Arpaio made the point, if Congress can hold hearings on deflated football or steroids, surely they should hold hearings on what he called this most important subject facing our country and potentially one of the greatest frauds ever perpetrated.
A strong statement.
Very. And Mike Zullo had a broader goal, too. He expressed a desire for legislation that this never happens again in this nation, some kind of reform based on their experience.
Interesting. Did Arpaio talk about the broader political context, his own alignments?
He did. He was very clear about his support for Donald Trump, said he was with him from day one, predicted he'd win the presidency.
Why the strong support?
He admired how Trump treated his wife, apparently, and his expressed love for cops, veterans, the military, the people. It seems Arpaio saw Trump as an ally against the kind of federal overreach and establishment opposition he felt he himself was facing.
Makes sense in that context.
Yeah.
Did he connect this to other issues, like border security?
Absolutely. He brought up his long-held belief in a border wall, but he emphasized it wasn't just about illegal immigration for him, it was for the drugs.
Drugs coming across the border.
Yeah, he stated flatly, all the drugs coming into our country come from Mexico.
Oh.
And he mentioned, kind of grimly, discovering thousands of bodies near the border over the years as evidence of the danger and chaos there. He framed it as a critical national security issue being ignored.
And his view on the political opposition at that time.
Pretty sharp criticism. He said, Hillary and that bunch, they can't accept defeat, and claimed their actions had gotten completely insane. He also voiced a belief that law enforcement and the military were, in his words, leading the fight with courage to expose the corruption, but were being persecuted for it.
Persecuted by whom?
He contrasted it with groups allegedly funded by Soros, who he claimed were openly calling for the death of police officers. So he saw this deep divide, this struggle, with law enforcement on one side and heavily funded opposition on the other. His investigation, in his mind, was part of that fight.
He also mentioned his jails, the tent city facilities.
Yeah, he worried about what would happen after he left office. About thousands of criminals out of your jail, he warned, and the potential for a crime explosion if those facilities were closed down, which he seemed to expect, connecting his specific policies to broader crime concerns.
So despite all this opposition and frustration, do you have any hope for the future for these issues he raised?
He expressed some optimism about the incoming Trump administration. He hoped the next administration will do something about the problems he saw, particularly the perceived federal overreach and issues of government integrity. He specifically praised Trump's pick for Attorney General at the time.
So wrapping this all up, what's the core takeaway from their account?
Well, at its heart, it's this claim, right, that a local law enforcement agency, through a multi-year forensic investigation, uncovered what they described as definitive proof that a major official document was inauthentic.
Right. And that they did this despite facing, in their view, significant institutional pushback, media silence, and political opposition.
Exactly. It really makes you think, doesn't it, about the whole dynamic. A local sheriff taking on something of this magnitude. The challenges they described facing when powerful institutions seem, from their perspective anyway, to be either silent or actively hostile.
Yeah. And given their detailed claims about the forensic evidence and the counterclaims they made about attempts to suppress or discredit it, what does this deep dive suggest? Maybe about how information gets controlled or doesn't in really politically charged situations. How easy is it for the public to access the truth, whatever that might be?
That's the lingering question, isn't it? After hearing their side, their detailed account of the investigation and the opposition, what stands out to you? What part of this extraordinary story makes you pause and think?